A man tries to kill a police officer and people lay flowers at the scene of the attempted murder. Not for the victim, but for the perpetrator. And some even take their little children along to teach them blind hate and twisted values, all in the name of that ever-convenient excuse, the fight for democracy. I thought I'd seen it all in Hong Kong, but this is next level appalling. So a man with a knife runs up to a uniformed police officer on duty on a busy Hong Kong street, stabs him in the back, then plunges the blade into his own chest, killing himself. It happens on the day the city is marking the 24th anniversary of its return to Chinese sovereignty. The attack triggers an outpouring of sympathy for the malefactor, not the victim, among China-hating Hongkongers. When I say China-hating Hongkongers, I don't mean the entire population, but there's a whole demographic out there. They hail the knife man as a martyr, some of them even making a show of taking their little children to the crime scene to lay flowers for their dead hero and stick it to the police. I don't know what's more horrifying, such a shockingly brazen act of murderous violence in what used to be one of the safest cities in the world, or the deeply disturbing psychology of the people placing a suicidal criminal on a pedestal. The culprit was a 50-year-old loner living with his parents. He was described as an introvert and a recluse who had left behind suicide notes expressing his hatred of police and stating his anti-government political stance. He had no documented history of mental illness, but authorities said there was evidence he had been radicalized by hate speech and unhinged by violence-inciting chatter on the internet. Hong Kong security chief condemned those responsible for the incitement, saying they were just as much to blame and had just as much blood on their hands. He called the attack a lone wolf-style act of domestic terrorism. I'm not going to argue about the categorization. There's a debate going on about that already, and it's meaningless semantics, just a distraction. What's more consequential and reprehensible is the open gloating going on among some very hateful people. All that apathy, even contempt towards the victim, compared with a deep sympathy for the perpetrator. All that romanticizing of the narrative, the glorifying, lionizing, canonizing of someone who tried to kill a police officer in a shocking explosion of lawlessness and mind-numbing animosity. Here's one of the sanctimonious messages making the rounds among the virtue-signaling supporters of this crime, and I quote, "This is extremely devastating and heartbreaking. The despair one must undergo to resort to such an extreme act. What has Hong Kong become only within 1 year?" How about this for a more pertinent question? What is wrong with you people? This is not about the political divide in this city anymore. This is not about yellow versus blue, or pro-democracy versus pro-establishment. This is not about human rights. It's about humanity and basic decency. It's about our ability to live in a civil society with law and order and not conduct ourselves like knuckle-dragging troglodytes bent on anarchy. Celebrating the attempted murder of a police officer is symptomatic of a disease, a deep sickness in the community. I'm sorry to say I just don't see any cure on the horizon for this cancer.